Seafood, a $30 billion a year industry. Nutritious, fresh, delicious shellfish are among the most popular of seafood. Mussels, clams, and oysters are prepared in a variety of ways and can be found on the menus of many fine restaurants. One of the more traditional ways to enjoy shellfish is raw or partially cooked.
Molluscan shellfish are highly perishable and demand special care by the harvester, processor, wholesaler, and distributor. Strict monitoring of delivered product is essential to the safety and well-being of the seafood-eating public. Due to the fact that human disease may be transmitted through the consumption of raw and/or improperly cooked shellfish, it is critical that the wholesaler and distributor adhere to all of the requirements outlined in this program. While consumers continue to demand oysters, clams, and mussels, there is currently a growing concern as to the safety of these products. This videotape has been produced to inform wholesalers and distributors about the HACCP, or Hazard Analysis Critical Control Point Model. This model is a science-based systematic approach to hazard identification, assessment, and control. It is intended to ensure safe, sound, and properly labeled foods from production to consumption. An integral part of the HACCP model is the analysis of the operational steps of the food manufacturing process to identify CCPs, or critical control points. The failure to observe a CCP may result in an unacceptable consumer health or economic risk. The following are the process CCPs for wholesalers and distributors. Receiving, chill store, primary process, packing, repacking, refrigerated storage, shipping. Hazards associated with a failure to control this CCP are the potential for microbial growth, contaminants, shellfish toxins, and receiving product from contaminated areas. It is the responsibility of the wholesaler and distributor to purchase shellfish only from certified harvesters or seafood suppliers. These suppliers must adhere to regulatory guidelines on product handling, storage, and packaging in relation to sanitation requirements. During harvest, fishermen are only permitted to harvest shellfish from waters that are approved by the State Shellfish Control Authority or shellfish approved under other federal authorities. Shellfish illegally harvested from polluted waters are frequently to blame for shellfish-borne illnesses. In an effort to help protect against illegally harvested shellfish and to maintain accurate source identity records, the harvester or certified supplier is legally required to identify shell stock by affixing a waterproof tag to each container prior to shipment. When shell stock is sold in bulk, the harvester or certified supplier is to provide a transaction record prior to shipment. The tag or transaction record must consist of the harvester or supplier's name and address, the certification number, the harvest location, the date of harvesting, the type and quantity of shellfish. This documentation is extremely important to accurately identify the source of any contaminated shellfish should an outbreak occur. This also assures that the consumer is getting molluscan shellfish from approved harvest locations. If the shellfish are not properly tagged, health authorities may ban safe shipments or even seize safe lots. You, as the wholesaler distributor, have complete control over what is received into your facility. Carefully examine each and every container of shell stock prior to accepting the delivery. Some key points to look for when examining a delivery of molluscan product include: never accept shell stock in damaged or unclean containers. Refuse any product with broken shells or persistent gaping, even after tapping the shell. This usually is a sign that the shellfish is dead or dying. If objectionable odors are evident, return the shipment to its origination. Another important step the wholesaler distributor should address when receiving shipments is to check the shellfish for proper refrigeration or frozen storage. This should be done by checking the temperature of the actual product rather than the storage unit. Shell stock should be kept at 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Temperatures below 35 degrees Fahrenheit will result in a greater number of dead shellfish. Frozen shellfish should be held at or below 0 degrees Fahrenheit. Shucked meats should be held at or below 45 degrees, although 35 degrees Fahrenheit is the preferred storage temperature.
Storage in the original container in wet ice is the most effective method to maintain the correct temperature. Do not accept shell stock with excessive amounts of mud or debris. Remember, the harvester is responsible for washing the shellfish and should do so immediately after the harvest. It is the buyer's prerogative to reject any shipment that does not satisfy his sanitation standards.
Never accept shell stock in completely sealed plastic bags or any other air-restrictive packaging which will shorten the survival of live mollusks.
The examination of product will help to ensure that you are purchasing safe, wholesome shellfish that you and your customers deserve.
Potential hazards associated with a failure to observe this CCP are microbial growth, decomposition, and cross-contamination. Let's examine the recommended procedures for storing molluscan shellfish. Shellfish storage areas must maintain the recommended product temperatures and should never expose the shellfish to temperature variations. Any fluctuation in temperature may result in the reduction of quality or death of the product. Refrigerated storage units should be capable of maintaining the recommended temperatures within plus or minus 3 degrees Fahrenheit.
Placement of the shellfish is very important in the storage process. The containers, especially shell stock, should be kept 6 inches above the floor and away from walls and ceiling, preferably on non-wooden supports or surfaces. In addition, the shell stock must be segregated from any other raw or cooked foods and placed in the refrigeration unit, ideally in a pre-designated area. And adequate circulation of cool air must be considered when placing the molluscan product in storage.
Failure to observe this CCP will result in contamination by human pathogens, foreign material, chemical contaminants, and microbial growth. When shucking occurs, be sure to maintain all sanitary practices, control product and room temperature, and be sure that personnel are properly trained. Potential hazards associated with a failure to follow this CCP are economic fraud, miscoding, contamination, microbial growth, unapproved commingling of product, and dead product.
Ice used for packing must be made from an approved water source and must be stored and handled in a sanitary manner. As always, employee personal hygiene is very important during this phase of handling. In order to repack shell stock or shucked meats, the wholesaler distributor must be certified as an official repacker as outlined in the National Shellfish Sanitation Program guidelines. These guidelines strictly state, only clean and wholesome shell stock shall be repacked. All packaging must be clean and fabricated from safe materials. Repacking facilities and equipment should meet all applicable sanitation requirements. Proper temperature and environmental conditions must also be maintained to protect mollusks from becoming contaminated during repacking and storage.
Shucked shellfish should be kept near 35 degrees during repacking.
Employees who handle molluscan product must always wash their hands when returning to their workstation and also practice safe hygiene habits. The information from the original source tag should be documented on the repacking label, and accurate records must be maintained for source identification. A durable waterproof label must be securely affixed to each container of shucked product and should display the following information:
certification number, fresh or frozen, the sell-by date must be used on shucked shellfish consumer containers of half-gallon or less. The date shucked must be noted on shellfish containers half-gallon or larger.
Additional label information might include product type, product size or grade specifications, any unique attributes, color, odor, etc., any allowable defects such as water content. It is imperative that shell stock from different lots are not commingled. This would make tracing the source of contaminated molluscan product virtually impossible. It is common practice to utilize onion or potato sacks, wooden bushel baskets, plastic bushel baskets, or waxed corrugated cardboard boxes for packing and shipping of shell stock.
Microbial growth, container damage, and dirty storage areas will be prevented by observing control measures at this CCP.
In order to minimize microbial growth and product deterioration, which may lead to public health hazards, it is recommended that shucked meats be stored and transported at a temperature at or below 45 degrees Fahrenheit. Shell stock should be stored at 50 degrees Fahrenheit maximum, although 40 degrees is the preferred temperature, and be sure not to drop below 35 degrees Fahrenheit. All equipment and conveyances which come into contact with shell stock are to be properly maintained and cleaned. Strict inventory rotation procedures should be instituted to ensure that the shellfish are shipped on a first-in, first-out basis. Proper receiving documentation must be maintained for a minimum of 90 days. In the case of a health hazard, health authorities must be able to trace the shellfish back to its origin.
The following hazards are potential if the shipping CCP is not observed. Microbial growth, physical damage to product, loss of recall capability, mislabeling, and cross-contamination are very real possibilities.
Shellfish must be transported in a manner that assures continued product safety and wholesomeness. Trucks should be clean and properly maintained to allow free drainage, which would prevent cross-contamination of any product. Since fluctuating temperatures may be harmful to the product, any refrigeration units should be pre-chilled and maintained at the recommended temperature prior to loading the shellfish. Chilling of molluscan product is recommended as soon after the harvest as possible, and the truck should not be considered as the primary chilling point. The National Shellfish Sanitation Program recommends the use of temperature recording devices on refrigerated shipments that are traveling long periods of time in warm weather. These devices may not be needed for short trips or for shipments of shucked meats or cold water shellfish which are packed in an adequate amount of ice. If the transport does not have a channeled floor, the shell stock shipments should be palletized on preferably non-wooden pallets. It is best if the entire cargo consists of only shellfish, especially when shipping shell stock. If the cargo is mixed, product placement, horizontal partitions, and other means of product separation should be used to isolate the shell stock. Never place cargo below, above, or on packs of shell stock. Transaction records indicating the origin of the product must be maintained in a legible, orderly file. Purchases and sales must be recorded in a permanently bound ledger book or other methods approved by the state and maintained for a minimum of 1 year. The time, location, and persons involved with the final shipping transaction should be documented and returned to the wholesaler's files.
Use this HACCP model as a guide and establish your own control plan. You may wish to have your local, state, or private food control authority review and provide recommendation on your plan. Once in place, verified, and maintained, your HACCP will not only increase your confidence in providing safe and wholesome shellfish to the public, but it will allow you to document food control to regulatory authorities.